Assalamualaikum and welcome to FYP Research Methodology Seminar. For your information, this seminar is a special seminar in which it is conducted online. What you need to do is that you need to watch this video until the end. I hope you can get a lot of information after watching this video. Okay, in this seminar, I'm going to share my personal experiences as a researcher, as a supervisor, and as an examiner. This seminar aims to provide you some guidance before you can jump into your FYP journey. Okay, in terms of the content of this seminar, we will cover four main topics. The topics are Introduction to Research, followed by research process and problem identification, and then research design and project planning. Before we go further, let's take a look at the element required in your FYP project. There are four elements that your FYP project must have. The elements are design, development, analysis, and research. Don't worry about this one because you have to consult with your supervisor to understand further on these four elements. Moving forward is the skill required to conduct FYP. There are 6 skills listed here. The first one is able to provide solution for a specific problem. What does it mean here? It means that they want to test your critical thinking on how you want to solve a specific problem. Okay, so this one should be independent. Okay, and then secondly, able to apply the knowledge and skill obtained in class. So since you are now in semester 7, we expect you to apply all the knowledge that you have gained in the previous 6 semester. Okay. Then the third one is able to manage the project efficiently, organized. Here, quite simple to understand. You have to plan your FYP project and then try to execute your plan efficiently. And then followed by able to carry out project that is valid, reliable, and reproducible. Here, what does it mean? It means you have to have a valid result. How to ensure your result is valid is by do some verification. You have to verify your results and make sure it is valid. Okay. Uh, and not only valid, it must be reproducible. What does it mean by reproducible? It means if let's say you got one result, for instance, you got 5 votes. So next time when you do the same experiment again, the output must be the same, 5 votes. That is what does it mean by reproducible. And then it is followed by able to prepare a well organized and clear report. Okay, based on your experiment just now, and then you have collected all your data and then you do some analysis on that, and then finally you should be able to come out with a clear report, okay, to report your findings. And then finally, after you complete all the experiment, and then you have already documented all your analysis and the results, and then we expect you to have a skill for oral presentation too. Okay, now going back to our business just now, we want to understand what is research. Okay, by definition, research means organized and systematic search or investigations toward increasing the sum of knowledge through method of study, observation, comparison, and experiment. Okay, for this one, this is the definition, but I want to imagine this way. Okay, the scientific method. Okay, for the scientific method, I think this figure is much more easier for us to understand. For instance, we will start from observation up here. Okay, normally people will start doing observation. You observe things here and there. Okay, after you do your observation, you start questioning. You start questioning why is that happening and how can we solve that, and many more questions will comes out from your thinking. And then what happened after that? After that, you go home and you start doing some literature search. And then after that, you come out with a hypothesis. But the thing is, your hypothesis not necessarily true, because that is just an just the hypothesis. So what you have to do? We have to conduct experiment to prove that our hypothesis is correct. And then from the experiment, of course, we will get data. That data need to be collected. Okay, that data need to be collected before we perform some analysis on the data. Okay, based on the analysis that we made, come out with a conclusion. Okay, this conclusion will then be shared with the publics, and finally a new questions may be asked, and then start again the observation based on the question that is being asked. Okay, by now I expect you to understand what is research based on the scientific method. The circle just now. Okay, now is for us to understand what is research problem identification. Okay, a research problem is a questions that you as a researcher want to answer, or a problem that you want to solve. Okay, but what does it mean by this? Okay, just now refer back to the circle just now. First, you are doing observations, and then you start questioning. After questioning, you go back and do some literature search. Okay, based on the question just now, you must solve a problem, right? Meaning to say that you observe something and then you see, oh, something's like a problem that maybe can be solved. And then we have to also remember that without problem, there is no research. Okay, again, I said without problem, there is no research. Okay, because research is is to find the answer for a problem. Okay, that's why we need to do research, because we want to solve something. But before we solve something, we have to identify the problem. Okay, that's why the statement here mentioned, I repeat once again, a research problem is a questions that you as a researcher want to answer. You see, the question that we want to answer, the question comes from the problem. Okay, or the problem that you want to solve. Okay, the question comes from the observation based on the scientific method just now. Identification, sorry, problem identification is the first and the most important step in research process, because I mentioned just now, without problem, there is no research. So the first step is to find the problem first. Then we try to find the solution for that problem. Okay, it's normally start from the broad area, of course, because you observe something in broad and then you try to find the literature in a broad area and then start to narrow it down. Depends on your reading. You have to do a lot of then from broad topic to a specific statement, and then that statement normally called a problem statement, a very specific statement of that particular problem. Okay, because we are not trying to solve the world problem. We want to solve a small problem that can impact the world. Okay. Okay. Next is what is a research process? Okay. Research process is a series of various actions which are necessary to effective research work. Okay. For example, in our case, we are dealing with FYP. So we have to understand the stages of FYP. Okay, starting from from selecting the research topic. So in your case, you select your title, and then you have to meet your supervisor to understand the title. Okay, and then from there you can understand which research topic you are in. Come, comes next is to define the decision problem or opportunity. So, meaning to say that you try to identify the problem here. Okay, based on the problem, of course, you want to solve it. If you want to solve it by using objective, you have to have objective. Your objective is to solve the problem defined here. And then based on the objective just now, what you have to do next is to develop a research design. You design your research. Okay, design on how to meet the objective or how to complete the objective. Okay, and then you need to also specify the information required. Okay, specify the information required, meaning to say that you have to understand what is needed in your design so that you can meet the objective. Okay, uh, following to the information required is manage and implement the data collection. Okay, once you already know what information required to meet the objective, you of course you want to conduct experiment, and then from the experiment you will get a lot of data, so you have to manage and also implement the data collection. You have to collect all the data, and then what you want to do with the data. Okay, the data need to be analyzed and you need to interpret the results. Okay, based on the analysis that you make, you have to interpret what the results mean. Is it meet the objective? Okay, because the aim is to solve problem. This is a research. Again, what is research? Research is the method to solve a problem just now, right? Okay, then after you analyze and interpret the results, you formulate conclusion and recommendation. And then finally, you write a final report to report all your findings. And of course, while doing your conclusions and recommendation, it will match back to the objective because you want to conclude that the objective has been met or certain objective has not been met. And then final research report. So that's all. Okay, based on that, let's now take a look at the stages of FYP process. Okay, the process start with conceive, proposal, planning, writing is in this stage. Okay, and then after conceive, we start up the project. Okay, by designing our experiment, designing the circuit, and so on in this stage. And then after we done our design, we proceed with the experiment. Okay, with the experiment, as I mentioned just now many times, during the experiment we have to collect data. Okay, so this is the data collection stage. Okay, during the experiment. So what happened after the experiment? Okay, we analyze the data that have been collected. Okay, and then after that, we perform data analysis on the data that has been collected just now, and then we come up with some results. Okay, we have to interpret the results. If in case of your data is not enough, okay, for instance, based on the results that you obtain, it doesn't actually meet the objective that you have set earlier. Okay, so what you need to do is that you have to go back to the experiment, meaning to say that you have to add more experiment so that you can collect more that data. Maybe some parameter you ignored during the earlier experiment. Now you want to include some more parameter so that you get better analysis, better results, and that result can meet the objective that you have set earlier. Okay, this is normal. This process is normal. You can go back to the experiment and then do some analysis, and then you can go back to the experiment once again, and then this sometimes happen multiple times, especially if you are doing a real research. Okay, not FYP, the real research like postgraduate research. Okay, and then after doing the analysis, what happens next is you collaborate. Okay, or maybe you have a collaborator to share the data, and then after that is to publish your finding. Okay, publish your finding, make your finding public, and so that other researcher maybe in the same field as you can refer to your finding and then can extend the knowledge further. That is the importance of publication. Yeah, and then finally expose. Expose means that you are there is no more secret in your finding or research, and then you can expose. Okay, after you publish, because you have already logged that finding is yours. Okay, end of project. And then after you expose, deposit, it can be deposited into data archive so that maybe in the future it can be reused by another researcher, and then they will come up with a new proposal and conduct an additional experiment to solve more complex, maybe more complex problem. Okay, so overall, this is the data life cycle. Okay, this is the important section that you have to understand, uh, from the experiment, data analysis, and also for data sharing. Okay. Okay, let's see the FYP game now. Okay, the real key of success is enthusiasm. Okay, the key, the real key of success is enthusiasm. Okay, your supervisor. Okay, start with this one. Your supervisor give you project title. Okay, and you are full of enthusiasm. Okay, Let's see what happens next. But then you realize supervisor has given nothing but project title. Haha. Okay, you start think of initiative because just now enthusiasm. You go to the library, but you can't understand catalog, or maybe you go online to do some search, but you cannot understand what is actually your supervisor want to do based on the title given. Okay, and then you found that the important reference has gone missing in the library. Okay, there's no more reference for your project. How do you feel about that? Then, and of course, if that a situation happening, you start thinking you need supervisors help. Okay, and then maybe you go and meet your supervisor, and then after that, when you meet your supervisor, of course your supervisor is the expert of the title given, and then your supervisor give comments, give suggestion, give explanation to the title. Okay, but the thing is, you still don't understand because sometimes it is too deep. Maybe your knowledge is not up to that level. Okay, so what happened? You do extra work on first report proposal. You try your best. Okay, this statement means you do extra work after you got explanation from your supervisor, and then you try to come out with your proposal as best as you can. However, examiner is not impressed at all. And then what happened to you? You become depressed. Okay? Then you become more depressed. Okay? At this stage, what happened? You are now thinking of changing your project, especially if the project that you are totally blur. Okay? And you think that your supervisor is not helpful enough, then you are also thinking of changing the supervisor. But unfortunately, you can't. Okay? And then you do labs demonstrations to get some dash, but lab demo take up too much time, but no results. But at this stage, nobody cares. Sometimes the specimens incorrectly labeled. Okay, while you're doing your FYP, you incorrectly label your specimen, and then experiment are working but no results. Okay, you construct everything, you already design your experiment, but it is working, but the result is not promising, or the result is incorrect. Still nobody is actually cares. Let's see, you begin to think you will never finish. Okay, at this stage you start to think you will never finish, and maybe you are okay, you are thinking the right way. And then at the same time, because sometimes you are living in the hostel, or outside with your friends, and then you start realize your mates are earning more than your project. Okay, with less effort. That is the challenge. Then if that situation happen, it is actually make you spend more time complaining than working. You go here and there complaining that your project is difficult, cannot be solved, but the others are doing their job. What I can say here, pray and work smart every weekend for all semester. Okay, now let's take a look at the factors affecting good FYPs. Okay, here we want to take a look at the factors and potential contributor to that particular factors. Okay, so if let's say we go to the first one, weak student, maybe it is affected by the student itself and also management. And then in terms of the time, the student himself. And then in terms of the scope is not well defined, maybe the supervisor must really find the scope carefully so that the student can complete the FYP project within time given. And then in terms of lack of monitoring and reporting mechanism, maybe the management, and then also management, and then lack of interaction is actually between student and supervisor. Maybe the supervisor too busy until the student very difficult to find suitable time to meet the supervisor, or the supervisor always uh, run after the students. Okay, the students busy than the supervisor. Okay, moving forward is what examiners would like to see. Okay, the first one, I look to see if student has adequately explained what they consider to be evidence. Okay, and then the second one, how the evidence has been collected. Just now, about the evidence. Now is about how the evidence has been collected, and then based on the data, whether the statistical technique have been used satisfactorily. So during data analysis, is that satisfactorily? And then lastly is whether the approach appear viable. So these are four questions that you have to answer because this is what examiner would like to see. Okay, Alhamdulillah, we have reached at the final topic, which is project planning. Okay, in project planning, five main components here are field or area, a proposal, experiment, goal, and time. Okay, to visualize this, the philosophy like this. Okay, field and area over here, and then you have the goal here, and then you proposal. You have to write proposal, and then some define work and experiment to meet the goal. Okay, but the time here is in 2 semester. Okay, this is the whole planning that you have to consider. Okay, and then in terms of the details, plan of action. Okay, provide concise note on the approach that you are proposing to achieve the objective. This should an estimated timetable describing the which you intend to undertake and should identify your main objective. So this is something like put here is timetable, and you have to list down all the activities to meet of your research. And then a good way of illustrating this is to produce a bar chart with a series of tasks down and left hand side and date along the bottom. Okay, underneath, okay, bar chart keyword here, underneath there should be a couple of sentences about each task, saying what you expect to achieve, how you will achieve it, and how you will evaluate it at the end. Okay, so in overall here, what does it mean? It means a Gantt chart. Okay, it means a Gantt chart. Okay, you have to prepare your Gantt chart. Like for this one, this is for FYP1, and then this is for FYP2. So you have 2 semesters over here. So the task here must be something that is specific, and then you have to make sure you can complete all the tasks here within time. Okay, don't simply put the task here by copying other students' tasks. That is not proper, and that is not your plan anyway. So you have to plan yourself. You can put anything here. If possible, make it a little bit technical, in which you can complete stage by stage, meaning to say that the whole project is divided into a few stages, and then you try to solve or try to complete every single stage at a specified time. Then you transfer your plan into this Gantt chart. If possible, make your Gantt chart for 1 year, because FYP is actually a 1 year project. Okay, the last one. Okay, you understand what is research, and you need to identify the problem, and then you know the process of doing FYP, and then you have to have a plan. You have plan, you produce your Gantt chart, and then now the question is how to do the execution, or how to monitor your execution. Okay, it is it is can be done from a logbook. Okay, you have to prepare one logbook, and then you have to record everything that you did in your logbook. Okay, okay, brief I can explain here. The use of logbook is actually to keeping track of your research, keeps you from forgetting important things. This is very important. Sometimes you have done some experiment, and then you obtain not so good results, and then after a certain time you forgot that you have tried or you have attempted that particular method, and the result is not that good. So that if let's say you log that results already in your logbook, so meaning to say you not repeating the same experiment once again. So this is the important of logbook. Uh, and then the third one is protect you from accusation of plagiarism. Okay, and then use a logbook for your reflections, readings, idea, process, and then read or flip or summarize. Keep record of all activities and timeline. Okay, basically, if you write your logbook properly, if you attempt or if you try many things, many experiment, but your result is still not promising, and then you start think over and over again. Okay, but the thing is, sometimes after a few months, for instance, you start forgetting. Okay, and then you can actually go back to your logbook and browse through to read back, and then do some reflection what has been done, and then from there maybe you can come up with a new idea. Okay, maybe you can do some digestion on the information in your own logbook, and then you can come up with a new idea, and then maybe certain things that you never considered before, in it is actually written in your logbook that you never considered that particular approach. Then you can proceed with the things that you left before. Okay, that is another important things of logbook. In order to conclude everything that we have discussed, I believe that good research methodology will surely produces good thesis. Okay, but you have to remember the important element that you must have in your thesis is the objective, literature review, experiment, observation and analysis, discussion based on your results, and then finally your conclusion. Okay, thank you for listening, and I hope you can get benefit out of watching this video. Thank you.